Well, hi, my name's Don, and I too like bacon. I don't think that's a controversial thing. Pretty much everyone likes bacon, even vegetarians. I don't think they try that hard to pick out all the bacon in their salads. I'll just say that. Seems like everyone loves bacon now, except for possibly pigs. But everyone loves bacon, and I do. I'm old, so I remember a time when bacon was sort of rationed for some reason. Like, I was thinking there's been bacon inflation, not just that it's wrapped around everything, but you just eat more of it, or at least I do. I remember I grew up in a family of 9. There was mom and dad and 7 weird kids like me, and I think mom would make maybe like a pound of bacon, so you were like fighting over one like tiny little meat bookmark, so it was like, you might get a piece or two. And now we had people over the other night, family over, and we were having that glorious thing of breakfast for dinner, and my wife said, there's 5 of us. Do you think 4 packages of bacon, and this true story, will be enough? And she doesn't even eat bacon. And I said, well, maybe. And then she said these hilarious words. She said, anything left over will freeze for other, and we just laughed and laughed like nothing was left over. In fact, my son and I, there was a period, poor Reagan, our daughter's like cooking bacon. She cooked like 2 packages before anything made it to the plate. We just kept eating it as she's trying to place it on. But I like bacon, and it is on everything. It might be overdone. I'll just say, like, everything seems to be wrapped in bacon or bacon enhanced or, with new bacon flavor. Mountain Dew bacon is coming out. Not really, but soon. And I'll drink it. I'm not going to lie about that. But like, everything seems to be flavored with bacon, wrapped with bacon, bacon infused, bacon. But here's the thing. I like bacon, so that really doesn't make me mad in any way. I think bacon is good, and I hope people eat bacon. And maybe some things are just like crappy flavors that we try to add bacon to, but I still like bacon. Now, here's why I tell you that. From the very beginning, as a church, we have always been about doing good for others. We say love God, love people, take action. We pretty much stamp that on everything we do. And the take action part is the part that I want to talk to you about this morning, because that's actually how some of you met us. Some of you probably got to know Action Church through that. A lot of you would say that's my favorite part of Action Church, the part of Action Church that we don't just gather and just, hear a sermon each week. Sad how many of you say that's not your favorite part. But anyway, like, we don't just gather to hear a sermon, or we don't just gather to hang out, or we don't just gather to learn things. We actually take action. We actually put it into practice, and we do generous and kind things as a church. Now, that's always been part of it. In fact, from the very beginning, in our original sort of like, this is what Action Church will be. We've been talking about the Manifesto this month, sort of the angry email that started this whole thing. We always said that we wanted to do good, not just look good. Not just like talk about Jesus and, hey, we're a wonderful church. We wanted to actually just do good, and we didn't even care if we got the credit for it. And so that's always been a part of Action Church, and I'm happy about that. I am. Like, there was actually, before there was a church, we had never had a meeting. We had just started sort of thinking about what church would be like, and we still do a Relay for Life event every year for American Cancer Society, but we actually went to Relay for Life before the church existed. It was a year, we had written the manifesto, we had ordered a black tent and some t-shirts, and that's all that existed in the church, and we gave $1,000 to American Cancer Society, signed up. There was like 5 of us. I would say Michelle did about 95% of the walking that day, and I sat in the tent a lot, but that's what we did the very first thing. In fact, it was confusing to people because they'd never seen a church do that, and they weren't sure we were a church, and we weren't even sure at that point. In fact, I remember someone actually asked me, they said, is this a church or a band? And I said, I'll let you know in about 2 years. Like, if the church thing doesn't work out, we have these t-shirts, we could be the band, But anyway, like, from the very beginning, that's what we've done. And over the years, and I don't want to brag, I'm not bragging because it's not something I've done, it's something you've done, but just like, I can't, and this is going to sound like I'm making this up, but it's true, like, I can't remember all the things that we've done over the years to serve others. And that's a good problem to have. Like, we've fed thousands of people. We've given coats away. Like, I can't tell you how many times over the years, things that you don't even know, just like people needed help, and Action Church was able to just write them a check or give them a gift card or show up and give them something they need. That just happens. And I can't tell you, like, how many times that, it's funny thinking back, like, the thousands of pounds of food we've given away and people we've fed. And it's interesting to think back, like, that is just part of sort of the fabric of Action Church. And I know it's some of your sort of like your favorite part of Action Church. And I will tell you, even though that's not my nature, I'm sort of stingy by nature, and Action Church helps me to be generous. But I will tell you, I've never been disappointed when we gave something away. And I know we have different, like, sort of spirits and different attitudes. And some people are like, oh, I just want to give everything away. And some people are be like, I just want to hold on to everything. I want to, like, hoard things. But I've never been sorry when we've given things away. I remember our very first Easter. We've talked about this before. Like, we got our first large donation as a church, and it was $2,500, which back then would have taken us through an entire month. And Michelle and I both felt like, oh, we should give this away. So we gave that away in a service one time. So from the beginning, we've thought that doing good was important and not just looking good, and that the take action part was very, very important to us as a church. But here's something that's just true. Doing good is good for business, so there's a whole lot of it going on, right? And I think that's a good thing. Sort of like I told you, and it's true, like, I like bacon, and I'm not even mad that everything's wrapped in bacon, because I'm a bacon lover, like, I'm not mad that everything's bacon flavored, but there's sort of the same thing going on with doing good, with charity, if you will, with generosity, that it's part of American business, it's part of American culture. I mean, when's the last time that you, like, bought something that they didn't go, hey, would you like to give, $1 to, like, homeless three-legged dogs, I mean, there's always, like, something, or hey, would you like to give to kids with cancer, or hey, would you like to give to dogs with cancer? I mean, there's something all the time, because business, big corporations as well as small corporations, have found, and it's true and it's good, like, if you add a component where you're helping others, that's great for business. And you know what? I'm all for that. Like, there's television shows, like a few, I think when we started Action Church, there was, I don't know, that home makeover show was the only one. Now, like, every other show, and it kind of comes and goes, is the Boss Show or the Home Improvement Show, where you gift things to people. And it's a big deal, and it's wonderful, and it still makes my eyes misty when they move that bus sometimes. But, like, that's just part of the fabric of our life. It's sort of woven in, like bacon flavoring, into everything. Like, when's the last time someone came to your door and just wanted to sell you something? They don't do that anymore, do they? They go, I want to sell you something, but it's for a really good cause, so unless you hate children, you'll buy my product. That's always the way it is now. And it's easy to be a little cynical, like I am with bacon, and go, oh, maybe it's just sort of wrapped in bacon. It might not be that good, or maybe they're just sort of throwing charity in there. But here's the thing, like, charity is good, and generosity is good, and doing good is good for business. But doing good is also big business now, right? Like, nonprofits are some of the most profitable corporations around, not Action Church. We're doing this all wrong, obviously. But, like, if you research in America, like, there are nonprofits that take in $2 billion, $3 billion, $5 billion a year. That's pretty big business. And there are people on staff of nonprofits that make millions of dollars a year. And that's tough even for the biggest right-wing capitalists in the world like me to go, oh, that's a lot of money, like, I'm starting to feel the burn about this. How is that possible? But, like, it's big business. How did I work those two things together? I don't know. But, like, it's amazing that it's big business and it's good for business. And I feel like, in a way, like, doing good and generosity and charity is sort of like the bacon flavoring of everything in America. And I like bacon and I like charity and I like doing good, but it's easy to sort of go, maybe there's too much, but that's horrible to say. So here's the thing I want to tell you this morning, and I just want to be open about this. There's always going to be a tension when it comes to doing good, when it comes to charity in Action Church. Because on one hand, and this is not just Action Church, but I'll tell you because I know Action Church. But in church, you kind of go like, we should do good, we should do the works of Jesus, we should serve others, we should give money away, we should give food away, we should give everything away. And on one hand, you kind of go, well, why do we do that? You know, there's sort of like, and then sometimes it's certain people, like they sort of have that nature, and I don't blame them. Sometimes I'm like, why do anything? I mean, there's a program for everything, right? Like, I mean, like, are we really going to be able to feed all the people that are hungry? I mean, we're a little church, you know, like, are we really going to be able to meet people's needs because there's just so much need? And aren't there government programs for that? Isn't there a charity out there that's got a big building? Couldn't they do more? And like, it's so easy to sort of, so there's on one side of this equation, on one side of like serving others and being generous, there's sort of this, why do anything? Because we're never going to be able to meet the need. We're never going to be able to just sort of live up to everything that's needed. It's overwhelming. So why do we do anything? And then the other side of that is to go, yeah, but that's what it's supposed to be a church. You know, like doing good is what we're about. So why do anything else? You know, it feels good. And it's funny, that happens like after Relay or after we have some major food drive, or like we gave the stuff to the Ronald McDonald House the other day, and you just go, that was awesome. Why don't we just do that? I mean, why is Don up there yakking into a microphone? Like, let's sell the microphones and let's give away them. And so there's, on the other hand, somebody like, yeah, that was my suggestion. I put that in the box last week. But I mean, they're like, why did we buy new TVs for the lobby? Like, we could have used that money. And that's always been a part. There's always that tension. On one hand, there's like, why do anything? And then why do anything else? Like, you know, why not just close down the building, close down Sunday, and go out and like rake leaves for people and serve people? That would be great. And so there's always going to be sort of a tension between those two things. And I don't honestly think it's something that should be fixed. I think there should be a tension. There should be a part of going, hey, we need to share the gospel. We need to talk about Jesus. We need to gather together and worship God. But also, hey, we need to serve others. We can't make this about ourselves. Yeah, it's cool that we did this building remodel, but like, honestly, are we just going to sit here in this building and not serve people? How can we serve people with this building? You know, it's like that tension should exist. And here's the thing, from the beginning, doing good or generosity or the take action part of Action Church has been part of the plan. In fact, there's only 3 things in the manifesto that we said we would do, and we try to stick to that. Sunday mornings, this gathering where we sort of lay out what God says and what the Bible says and what Jesus did. And then there's action groups, which, yes, we're working on that again to start those up. That's another struggle. We could have another week of just going, that's constantly been a tension of how do you do that well in a church that we kind of go, well, we don't want to bother you, and we're introverts or we're extroverts, and we don't want to like have someone show up at our house every week if we're not there. But how do you do groups like that? But it's important because it's not just about gathering in rows. We need to have circles, and we need to have home groups. And so we're getting ready to start up some new ones, those that I'm very excited about. But here's the thing about that. The third part of that, besides groups and Sunday mornings, was kindness and generosity. That was always a part. In fact, I want to read that to you from the beginning, from the manifesto. It said, Action Church, I made it capital A because I didn't know we were going to be lowercase and so cool back then. But sorry about that. Action Church encourages all members to live a lifestyle defined by acts of kindness and generosity. These acts are in no way can earn the free gift of salvation, but are emphasized as a way to make Jesus famous by visibly being a blessing to our community. We believe that a good name is better than riches. That's from the Bible. And Action Church will strive, there's 2 words. I was horrible at writing this. I told you this is like a bad email. Action Church will strive to build and maintain a good name among our neighbors by consistently focusing a large portion of our time and financial resources toward those in need outside our local church. So here's the thing. Notice, first of all, who it said would be part of that. It said that all members would be encouraged. Now, here's the thing about that I want you to think about for a bit, because you may not know this. Like, a lot of times we'll gather together and go, hey, bring stuff for, I was just thinking back, I'd forgot about the Food NATO, which is one of the best named things we've ever done. I don't think it was the best thing, but just giving away food, and it turned into, let's have a Food NATO. I'm sure there was some Shark NATO influence in there, but we couldn't figure out a way to give away sharks, so we had to give away. But anyway, Food NATO was one of those. So we'd say, hey, everybody bring food, and we're going to give it to this food pantry, but that doesn't mean that, like, if someone's hungry in your neighborhood, we go, hey, I got to go to church and ask if they'll all chip in. Like, we always from the beginning said, these all play events. When we get together and serve, when we get together and are generous, when we give things away, that's really not the point. The point is we are sure serving people together, and sure we can do more together, but that's sort of just to give us all sort of the taste and the flavor of what it's like to be generous. And we want each of you to do that in your lives. And we hope if we give any sort of influence in your life about generosity, it's that, hey, You don't have to have a government agency or a charity or a 501c3. Like, you could serve people in your world. You could serve them with a snowblower. A lot of you did that in the last few. And so that's kind of what, from the beginning, it wasn't just, hey, we'll get together and we'll do the service work for you. It was always like, no, this is just sort of a taste of what living a life of kindness and generosity be. And another thing that might be a little different than the way maybe you were raised in church or you've heard from other churches, we don't do this because we owe God. We don't do this because we go, oh, God saved us and now there's a bill to be paid. This is how we work our way into heaven. No, none of that. Salvation's a free gift. But Jesus said in Matthew 25, he said, the king will say, I tell you the truth. He's like talking about himself. When you did it for one of the least of my brothers and sisters, when you fed the least of the brothers and sisters, when you cared for the least of the brothers and sisters, when you visited them in prison, you were doing it for me. So Jesus set out that when we do, God doesn't need anything from us. And so when we do for the least of these, when we do for this for people in need, we're actually doing it for God, but not because we can ever repay him. It's just our way of showing God's love to them. I know it's a weird thing to say, and it still kind of makes me go, cringe a little bit, this whole make Jesus famous thing. I think I probably read that in a book or on a blog back then, and it is sort of weird, but that's the idea, is that through our kindness, through our generosity, through the things we do, we're not just going, hey, look at us, we're good people, or hey, look how generous we are. We actually want to sort of connect the dots back to Jesus and go, hey, because of Jesus, we care about you. We love you. And then finally, there's this last part, which be careful what you say at a manifesto, because you sort of have to live up to it. And I don't know if we have. It says, by consistently focusing a large portion of our time and financial resources toward those in need outside our local church. So have we done that? I don't know. Not some years, what's a large portion? Obviously, I was a good politician even back then. I didn't make any specific percentage, but here's the thing, because of that tension, there's been years we've given away a lot more and a lot less, but throughout the years, if you look back, we've always said this is not just about being focused inside, it's about being focused outside. And I think last year, honestly, with the building remodel, in a way, it was probably one of our lowest years for outside. We still did relay, we still did a lot of things, but we were focusing all that time and effort into building out this place. And so how do you deal with that? There's always going to be sort of a constant pull to pay the utility bill. There's going to be a constant pull to go, hey, we need some improvements in here. I'm excited about being able to broadcast into the lobby. I know all churches now go, hey, we'd like to talk to our other campuses. We now have the lobby campus. So welcome out there in the lobby campus. But there's things that need to be done. We're not done with this building. There's utilities that need to be paid. I've been saying for 2 years, I can't wait to get a sign up. We still don't have a sign up, but there's things like that. So those are always going to pull on the inside. But then there's so many things that we could do on the outside to serve others and give to others and feed others. And how do you deal with that tension? Well, I think one way that we can deal with that tension best is we need someone to sort of champion the outside. And one thing, I'm going to introduce you later, and you know Jen Burr maybe, or maybe you've seen her around. But Jen Burr, from the beginning, Matt and Jen, when they came to our church, they actually met us at Relay for Life. They saw us walking around at Relay for Life, and I think Matt has told the story in a sermon he preached where he said, hey, they were kind of searching through their heart in a church going, hey, couldn't we do more outside? It seems like it's all internal, and they saw us marching around and go, we want to be a part of that. They came during the all-family, Don hasn't slept in 25 hours, and I think I talked about bananas with dreadlocks, and they came back, which is really weird. But they were drawn from the beginning to this idea of we take action. We don't just talk about it, we serve others. Matt and Jen now are on our leadership team, and Jennifer's heart, and both of their heart from the beginning, is that outward expression, that take action part of that. In fact, they were here a couple of weeks, and they said, can we give money or give food to a food pantry. And I'm like, yeah, if you do all the work, sure, we'll be glad to let you in. So if Food NATO came from them, they'd only been here a matter of weeks, and they actually organized that. So I know why I tell you that is to go, that's where their heart is. That's where Jennifer Burr's heart is always looking outward, always looking out at the mission, always looking at the take action part, like how can we serve the community? And so to sort of build on that tension to go, hey, we need someone pushing back that direction because there's always going to be a utility bill or a tax bill or, like something internal pushing us in this direction. She's going to be pushing that direction and always bringing up, and she's already got a couple new things, and she's going to be up here in the outro to tell you about one of the things that we're going to start doing as a church that's outward focused that I'm super excited about. And so how can we do that better? Well, she's going to be constantly pushing back on, but we need to look outside. But I want to share with you, and we'll talk to her later, but I want to share with you the scripture that this came from, because we didn't just make this up. And there's a scripture that I think really is helpful to us in this last week of the Manifesto series. And it's something Jesus said in his most famous sermon. He had a sermon called Sermon on the Mount. I don't know, like they were too cool to say mountain. It was on a mountain. And it's funny, like we look back and go, what a great sermon. But when I read it, honestly, it's from Matthew 5. It's sort of, depressing. He's going, hey, God blesses those who are poor. It's like, well, that doesn't sound like a lot of preachers you see on TV, Jesus, and he's like, God blesses those who mourn and they'll be comforted. And he's like, hey, God blesses the humble. Nothing like, hey, God will make you humble. That'll please. I mean, it's like not super, super inspiring, and he said, God blesses those who hunger and thirst for righteousness and those who are merciful and those who forgive and those whose hearts are pure. And then he ends it up by going, God blesses those who are persecuted, not for doing wrong, but for doing right. And he says, when people lie and say all sorts of evil about you, be happy, rejoice, because God is pleased. And you're like, that's a horrible sermon, Jesus. Really, honestly, like it's bad enough like when people say bad things about me when they're right. That's tough to deal with. But lying about you, I mean, it's funny. It's like we go, well, that's a great sermon because it's in the Bible. But honestly, it's sort of unsatisfying, if you will, to go, hey, things are going to be horrible, but we're blessed in heaven. But then he sums it all up. And this is amazing because out of that came this. In verse 13, he says, you are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? I like to say flavor because I'm street like that. It says, can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that can't be hidden. No one lights a lamp that puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. And in the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Now, if you grew up in Sunday school like I did, or if you're a church person, if you have church background, you've probably heard these two words, salt and light. You're the salt of the earth. Maybe you've even heard that term. That's where this came from. Jesus said it. Or you're the light of the world. Ronald Reagan said that. You're a shining city on the hill. Here's the interesting thing to sort of think about, though, when we look at this and what makes it difficult to sort of grasp right now. Like, when this was written, salt was about as valuable as it got. Like, salt was rare, and it was necessary. Think about it, they didn't have refrigeration. And so salt was not just, hey, it's a flavor enhancer, which it is and was, necessary for life, but it was also a preservative. So without salt, things would be rotten and flavorless. So he was saying, because of you, you're the people who will make things not rot and have a good flavor. And that was a very powerful image. Now, here's the difference today. Like, we have low salt diets and salt-free food and salt substitutes because we've got so much salt that we poured hundreds of pounds of salt on the driveway this year just to make sure that it didn't ice up. And they couldn't even imagine that. And so when I say to you this morning, like, oh, be the salt of the earth, it doesn't have the same ring. Now, is salt still important? Oh, yeah, it's absolutely important. Like, if you're running a marathon, I'll never run a marathon, but if you decide to run a marathon and you collapse due to dehydration, you know what they're going to give you? A single packet of salt, like from Arby's or something, will save your life because you don't have enough salt to live. Isn't it amazing? Like, it's still so powerful. We just have much of it now, so it doesn't seem... What about light? Like, we were talking in the meeting Thursday. I was like, we could hit the blackout on all the lights, and then it'd be totally dark in this room. And I was like, except for my iPad and the screen. Mike, thanks. But we were actually talking about that, going like, it really wouldn't work, because immediately all of us would go, yeah, I've got a light on my phone. I don't know if you know that, old man, and I know that because I always leave mine on in my back pocket. I don't know why, but here's the thing, like, we have so much light. Like, each of us have a flashlight on our phone. We have light pollution. They couldn't have imagined that back then. Like, we literally go, hey, there's light pollution. It's why you can't see the stars. Isn't that amazing? Like, hey, you know what? We got so many blue lights blinking on things on like devices in our bedrooms that we can't sleep anymore. I mean, we have too much. I don't know if that doesn't work for me. Like, you could shine like a halogen work light in my face, and I am so old and so tired, I would pass out immediately if you played the TV. So anyway, like, it's just amazing. Like, we have a different idea. Like, light is plentiful and it's cheap and it's everywhere, and you just can't. But here's the thing, light is still very powerful. Light is still amazing. If you walk into this building by yourself, and we still have the exit signs glowing, but I don't know about you, but if you've ever come in here and there are no windows, it's like this was a bar or something. It's weird. Like, there's no windows and it's super dark, and I trip over that dang iPad stand every time I walk in here without the lights on, and I say horrible things right in church. But like, you still need light, and light can change everything. If there's a situation, like I was riding my bike with a light on, which I thought was awesome at first. It was like flying through the trees, and then the light went out, which I shouldn't have bought the cheapest one on Amazon. And I'm out there before I can get my flashlight out, and it's pitch black, and I'm hurtling through the tree. I like, this could mean death because of my stupid Amazon light. It's just amazing. Like, light is still important. Light is still powerful. Salt is still life-giving. It still flavors. It's still, it preserves our bacon and ham. I mean, where would we be without salt? But it's plentiful. It's everywhere. So Jesus said this. He said, you're the salt of the earth. And then he makes this point, which is just true. Like, what good is salt if it's lost its flavor? Like, what are you going to do with salt that's not salty? And by that, I think he's saying to us as a church and as Christians, like, yeah, but you're supposed to be good. You're called to be generous, You're called to love others and serve others. So if you sort of go, hey, why does it matter? Why do anything? There's too much generosity in the world. There's so many charities. There's so many government programs. Why should we do anything? He's like, what are you good for if you're not good for anyone else? You're not good for anything. You're good for nothing. And then he said this. He said, you're the light of the world. I mean, think about this. He's like, you're not, he didn't say you could be the light, or hey, let your light shine down, or any sort of weird 90s song. He's like, you are the light, so why would you cover that up? Like he said, nobody lights a lamp and then just puts a bucket over it. I mean, what good would that be? He's like, you are the light, so why would you work to not shine? I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then he says these words. He said, in the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. See, here's the thing about it, like, as a church, what we do is not necessarily unique. Lots of people feed hungry people. Lots of people serve others. Lots of people give things to people in need. Lots of companies and corporations and groups are generous. And I think that's wonderful. But the difference is why we do it. See, we don't do it to go, hey, this is going to be good for business. Hey, if we do this will increase sales. Studies have shown people like a little bit of charity mixed in with their, hey, they'll buy these shoes if you give another one. That's not why we do it. We do it so that when we're done, they go, that was weird. That was awesome. Maybe not just weird. Like, that was awesome, but that was weird. And they did it because of Jesus? Like, I can't figure out any other reason these people would be so generous. Like, it doesn't build their bottom line. It doesn't make them money. It costs them money. And it's like we find ways over and over to go, no. Like, people always go, well, is this a fundraiser? I don't know how many times that happens when we go, hey, we're going to be giving this away. And people go, oh, is this a fundraiser? You need some? No. This is just what we do. This is just serving others. This is just giving to others. This is just loving others. But we do it because we want to be, and Scripture says that we should be sort of connect the dots between our good deeds and Jesus. Not just, and it's not that God is George Costanza and he just wants credit for the big salad Elaine. That's not it. But it's like, why else would we do it if we sort of do it and then go, hey, I threw a Seinfeld reference, says no one knows that anymore. I watch Seinfeld every night. I'm sorry. But it's just amazing, like, why we do it is so important and why we sort of connect the dots and go, this is because of Jesus. This is because and so here's the thing. This whole love God, love people, take action thing, it's not a mission statement in the sense that we go, these are the 3 things that we want to do. It's not like, check the box. We're going to love God. Okay, check. We're going to love people. Okay, check. That's a little more difficult. And then, better take action. It's in our name after all. It's in the manifesto. Who cares? See, what this is, and what Jesus would say is this is a natural progression. If you love God. If you love God, and that's not a natural thing for us. It's sort of like something amazing that happens when we sort of turn management of our life over to Jesus. You go, oh, I can't believe this is happening in this Grinch-like heart that's 3 sizes too small of mine. Like, I love God, and because I love God, I can't help but love people because God made them, and they're my brothers and sisters, and I can't even believe it sometimes because I'm such a jerk, but when I love God, it makes me love people, and I can't just stand idly by that. I can't, because when I love God and I love people that he created, then it makes me want to do something for them. And so I want the band to come back up here. And I want to pray with you, but I want to wrap it up by saying this. So there's a lot of generosity and charity in our world, in America, I will say that. And if I could throw just a little something in here, I think that has a lot to do with Jesus anyway. Like, the reason why Americans are the most generous and the reason why everything is sort of attached to charity, we'd like to just go, oh, we're just like that. Well, how come other countries without a Judeo-Christian background don't necessarily do that? It's because the Christian influence, if I might say that, throughout the years has proved to be very popular. And so we do things like that, but I'll strike that from the record if you would like to not think about that. But here's the thing. It's everywhere. And it's big business. And it's good for business. And every corporation has a charitable arm. And every person you meet's got a Kickstarter going. But why then and how then can we still guide people to Jesus through our kindness and deeds? Well, first of all, Jesus said, why wouldn't we? Like, if that's who we are, what good are we if we don't? And how do you sort of like live in a world when you're supposed to be salt and light when there's a lot of salt and a lot of light? Well, salt is still good. Salt is still powerful. Strategically, there are times like throw a little salt on your neighbor's driveway. It'll make his day. And when we have a storm like we did. And light, oh my goodness, there are times when you could just shine like a little light into somebody's life and it means everything. Kind of like bacon. You know what I mean? Bacon is everywhere. I actually thought about doing this, but I knew that I would be too distracted. I was like, and I don't want to turn this into a cooking show, but my first thing is like, I should cook bacon while I preach. That was my idea. And then I was like, number 1, I'd catch it on fire. Number 2, I'd probably blow a breaker. And number 3, I would just eat bacon the entire time. So I scratched that from the idea, but I was thinking like, I could make a pound of bacon up here. And it wouldn't be enough for all of you. It'd barely be enough for me, but not a single person in here would walk away this morning going, what was he doing up on stage? Like, you would know from the sound and the smell. And I think that's what this whole kindness and generosity thing is. It's not that we can provide bacon for the world, and truth is there's a lot of bacon. And we can be cynical and go, hey, I think there's just crap they wrap bacon around trying to sell it because people like bacon. Maybe. And they might just wrap charity around crap trying to get people to buy it. Yeah, maybe. But it's still good. And when you make a pound of bacon, my goodness, everybody knows because it smells delicious and it sounds wonderful. And so that's what we'll do as a church. We'll love God. And because of that, we'll love people. And strategically, we're going to take action in places where they need salt, where they need light. May I say it? Where they need bacon. And then we're going to be great at connecting the dots, going, that's because of Jesus. Dear God, we're grateful. Everything that we've given away over the years, everything that we've done to serve others came from you. We honestly shouldn't have any of the stuff we do. But God, help us to sort of deal with that tension of sort of like overcoming selfishness and overcoming self-interest that we all have to go, yeah, but this really isn't about us. And yeah, you told us to be salt and be light. And God, it's a weird time to be alive right now. And I'm glad to say there's a lot of generosity and a lot of kindness and a lot of charity. So how can we do this? God, show us how to be strategic. But most of all, God, how to be salt and how to be light in this world we live in. In your name we pray. Amen.